In the 1980s and early 1990s, Los Angeles was plagued by a series of suspicious fires. They weren't just random accidents. Many were deliberately set, and the destruction they caused spread fear across Southern California. Homes, businesses, and even lives were lost. For years, investigators searched for the person behind these blazes. What they didn't know was that the arsonist they were hunting wasn't a drifter, a criminal, or an outsider. He was one of their own. John Leonard Orr, a respected fire captain and arson investigator, turned out to be one of the most prolific serial arsonists in American history. John Leonard Orr was born in Los Angeles in 1949. From a young age, he seemed fascinated with fire. After high school, he joined the Air Force and later pursued a career in public service. By the late 1970s, he had joined the Glendale Fire Department, eventually rising to the rank of captain and working as an arson investigator. To his colleagues, Orr seemed dedicated and skilled. He had a reputation for being able to quickly determine whether a fire was caused by accident or arson. What they didn't realize was that Orr was often the one setting the fires he was investigating. Throughout the 1980s, Southern California experienced a wave of devastating fires, many of them suspicious. In 1984, a particularly tragic fire occurred at a hardware store in South Pasadena. 4 people were killed, including a 2-year-old child. Investigators struggled to find answers, but the fire bore the hallmarks of deliberate arson. At the time, no one suspected Orr, who was involved in reviewing cases just like this. The pattern of fires continued, many of them small brush or retail fires that seemed designed to burn quickly but cause maximum damage. Investigators eventually began to notice similarities. Fires often started in the same way, with a device made of cigarettes and paper matches wrapped in yellow-lined paper. It was a crude but effective time-delay device. That signature would become crucial later. What made Orr especially dangerous was his position of authority. As a fire captain and arson investigator, he had access to crime scenes, inside knowledge of investigative techniques, and the trust of his colleagues. He often seemed to be the first on the scene, arriving quickly and sometimes even directing firefighting efforts. Some colleagues later recalled that he seemed almost too eager to be involved, always nearby when suspicious fires broke out. In the late 1980s, as investigators from multiple agencies tried to track the arsonist, a task force began comparing notes. They discovered that many of the fires had occurred during conferences attended by arson investigators themselves. At first, the coincidence seemed baffling, but eventually suspicion fell on someone within their own ranks. The break in the case came in 1991. Investigators placed a tracking device on Orr's car during a period when fires were being set across California. The timing and locations lined up too closely to ignore. Soon after, Orr was arrested. A search of his home revealed even more damning evidence: manuscripts for a novel he had been writing, called Points of Origin. The novel told the story of a firefighter who was also a serial arsonist. The details were chillingly similar to the real-life fires investigators were studying. During his trial, prosecutors painted Orr as a man with a compulsion he couldn't control. They argued that he set fires for the thrill of it, then used his position as an investigator to insert himself into the cases. The evidence was overwhelming. In 1992, he was convicted of federal arson charges, and in 1998, he was convicted in state court of multiple counts of murder and arson, including responsibility for the 1984 South Pasadena hardware store fire that killed 4 people. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Orr's crimes shocked Los Angeles and the wider firefighting community. Firefighters are supposed to protect lives and property, to run toward danger when others run away. The idea that one of their own had been deliberately creating that danger was almost unthinkable. Colleagues who had worked alongside Orr described a sense of betrayal, realizing that the man they trusted had been using their profession as a cover for his crimes. The damage Orr caused was immense. Authorities believe he may have set hundreds of fires over the course of a decade, though he was convicted of fewer. The financial cost ran into millions of dollars, and the human toll included multiple deaths and countless injuries. His case is often studied today in criminal justice programs as an example of how someone in a position of authority can exploit that trust for criminal purposes. For Los Angeles, The Orr case highlighted both the strengths and weaknesses of its firefighting and investigative systems. On one hand, it showed how difficult it can be to track a skilled arsonist, especially one with insider knowledge. On the other, it showed the persistence of investigators who eventually broke through the web of deception. The use of forensic techniques, surveillance, and interagency cooperation all played a role in bringing Orr down. The legacy of John Leonard Orr remains unsettling. He wasn't a stereotypical criminal hiding in the shadows. He was a respected public servant, a man trusted to protect the city from the very crimes he was committing. His double life, firefighter by day, arsonist by night, exposed how thin the line can be between trust and betrayal in public institutions. Today, Orr is serving his sentence at California State Prison in Lancaster. He has occasionally spoken from prison, at times downplaying his role, at other times admitting to fires. But for most, his words matter little compared to the damage he left behind. For the families of those killed and for the communities scarred by his actions, his name will always be tied to destruction. The story of John Leonard Orr endures in Los Angeles because it speaks to deeper fears. Fires are already terrifying, uncontrollable forces of nature. To learn that some of the worst fires were set deliberately by someone sworn to prevent them made the tragedy even harder to accept. His case is a reminder that sometimes the danger doesn't come from outside, it comes from within. For Los Angeles, a city that has endured earthquakes, riots, and countless disasters, the Orr case remains one of the darkest examples of betrayal from within its own ranks. And for those who study it today, it's a lesson in vigilance, that even those in positions of trust must be held accountable, because sometimes the people we rely on most can hide the darkest secrets.